I think we might be live now.
Okay.
Hey, everybody, on Soil for Climate, I'm Hart Hagen and here with Kathleen Hallal of Kathleen is a board advisor for non-toxic communities. She also is with a company called Live Clean, which sells a non-toxic herbicide. Kathleen, how are you doing today?
Great. How about you, Hart?
Doing great, thanks. So I'm excited because I'm excited about trying to create a non-toxic world and, to create alternatives to whatever it is we're doing to poison ourselves and each other. And this is like maybe the fifth or sixth time we've talked, and I've always been impressed with your passion and your knowledge. And I think you wanted to share some stuff with us from beyond pesticides and that kind of thing. But what I wanted to talk about is let's talk about a couple, like two or three of the pesticides that are problematic. And then we'll talk about how do we organize in our communities to try to, bring some sanity into our landscaping and gardening and farming, etc. So,
Yeah, well, I've been doing this for a number of years now. I think about 8 or 9 years I've been working in this arena ever since I, started inquiring with farmers about what products were going on our crops and how I could improve the diet for my kids who had autoimmune issues. And once I figured that out, I kind of realized that the things that the farmers told me are used on farms that we should avoid that are really unhealthy are also being used on school grounds and in parks. And so I co-founded Non-Toxic Communities, and I worked in the nonprofit arena for a really long time, about 7 years. And I got my own hometown of Irvine, California to go organic. The city adopted an official organics first policy. And there was some legislation in our state that's it's a preemptive law that the pesticide industry sort of pushed through that say that no cities in certain states can have what's called a ban on products, but all cities are still free to adopt organic policies. And in the case of our city, we decided never to use glyphosate, which is the active ingredient in Roundup. And we also decided not to use other toxic products in favor of organic products. So it's sort of a positive approach, to
right.
using better products, making better choices. And in the end, our parks and our schools are much safer and they're as beautiful as ever. And it can be done. It can be done. So my dream has always been that every town and every community would go to either their school boards or their city councils and ask them to adopt organic policies. And a lot of times what happens is people will get together and they'll ask for these organic policies, or they'll at least say, please stop using Roundup, because more people are aware of that one particular product, which is probably the most prevalent product that's out there, but it's not even the worst, and it's not all they're using that you should be worried about. But at any rate, a lot of people say, ban Roundup and so on. And then their community leaders say, well, okay. And then the landscaping guys say, well, now what do we do? You took away our favorite tool for controlling weeds. So now what do we do? And then there's another step that has to come in order to have successful programs. And that is the training, so that the individuals running the landscaping department can understand how to maintain properties using organic practices. And that's kind of what I've learned. I've kind of learned over the years that you can't just complain. You can't just get your city council to make the decision, because you leave the landscaping guys in the lurch. All of their training, or most of their training, is funded by the chemical companies, and or involves only chemical methods. And the problem with that is that the guys then don't know what to do. Even if they're willing to switch over, they're not sure how to employ the organic practices, which are very successful. They are under the impression that it's unproven, and it can't be done. And that's what they've been taught. That's kind of the myth that the chemical industry is promulgated over all these years, but it's not actually the truth. Organic methods are very successful, very doable within a budget. And, you know, you can put as much into it as you want. If you want it to be a very perfect landscape that's a 10, like Disneyland, you know, there's going to be more input and more labor involved. But
Mhm.
your average park in your average town or your average schoolyard is not that fancy. And you can easily have the same level of aesthetics using pretty basic organic principles. And so I'm all about now helping communities to find that training so that they can be successful and switch over. And they can do it within a budget and they can do it successfully. So everything looks good and everyone's happy. And then everyone's safe, you know, the dogs, the kids, the people, everyone's safe. And this is the whole thing, you know, bringing the whole process to communities so they can be successful
Mhm.
instead of just complaining, bringing a solution.
Right. Well, talk to us about some solutions.
Well, currently my company is actually based in Utah because the non-toxic herbicide that I'm now representing is not yet for sale in California, Washington, and Oregon. We have additional state regulations in those 3 states, and we expect to be online this summer. But as of now, we're for sale in the other 47 states in the US. So I have set up my company in Utah, and it turns out that one of my friends from Irvine who saw me go through the whole process with our city. She was PTA president. She moved to Utah, and she recommended me to head up a group of students in their high school program there called CAPS. And it's a really great program where high school seniors get to work with a company that's just starting, a startup in different fields, whatever they're interested in, and then they learn kind of how a business runs, and they learn sort of life skills before they go to college. And a lot of the businesses that the director of the program looks for are businesses that have like a good cause, that do good for others. And so I got a group of students who I just love. They are amazing. I have 5 students, and they are not only learning how to represent the product. They went to a farmer's market, set up a table, and visited with people, and they visited with a school that's purchased the product that use it, and they met with a professional landscaper there who's using it. He did a demo for them, and he explained why it was important to use a safer product around children and so on, which was really great. And then they're also forming an environmental club, and they're bringing in kids from the one high school has students that live in 2 different towns. So they're bringing in students from all over from both towns, and the environmental club is going to put together groups to approach each town's city councils and ask for organic programs to be implemented. In the meanwhile, I've always worked very closely with Beyond Pesticides. They supported the changes in Irvine, and they're working together with natural grocers to sponsor training by one of the nation's top experts in organic landscaping. He's amazing.
Chip
He's
Osborne.
Chip Osborne, and he's actually his company is called Osborne Organics, and he has been consulting in organic practices for 20 years now, almost 20 years. And before that, he did conventional landscaping for 20 years, so he understands all of it. And then he's the chair of the Parks and Rec department in his town of Marblehead, Massachusetts, which has been organic for quite some time, and it's a very beautiful town.
Hmm.
And he consults for people all over the nation, for private estates, for the U.S. Department of Forestry, for universities, for high schools, for cities. He goes all over. He's amazing. He's just amazing. And so Natural Grocers, which is an organic market chain that I really love, they have been fundraising with Beyond Pesticides to support training for communities to bring in Chip to train their parks department, to train their guys in how to do, and ladies, in how to use organic methods so they can be successful. So it's sort of the whole package. So we're working on that. We're also talking with Park City. Park City is nearby to these 2 cities. And the thing is that the more towns and cities and schools we can get trained in the proper methods so they can be successful, the more we can advertise to other towns and communities that organic methods work, it can be employed, and that everyone should do it. I think that now the mindset, especially with COVID, is that it's common sense. Let's do this now. And so my goal is to help have more cities on board that can be examples of organic processes. And, we are not, like in Irvine, our policy is not 100% must be organic. We do have an emergency clause where our guys, in case of emergency, can use some stronger products in some cases if people's lives are in danger or there are areas that they just can't maintain. But almost all of our city, I'd say we're 98%, organic practices.
Mhm.
It's really amazing.
Mhm.
So it's all about advertising and spreading the word, but also giving the proper tools, because unfortunately there are sort of landscaping people out there who claim to be green and claim to be certified, and they're not as well trained, so they're not as successful. And it's very important that you use the best possible consultant so that your product is your end product is successful, so your parks are beautiful. Because the last thing you want is to go through all the work to say, let's make this community organic, and then it doesn't work out and everyone says, see, organic doesn't work.
Mhm.
So
Right.
it's really critical to have the properly certified individuals doing the training and leading the program. And Chip is not only NOFA certified, but he's one of the people who established NOFA accreditation, which is for professional organic landscapers. And these people are just amazing. They've been doing it
So
for,
NOFA is Northeast Organic Farming Association,
yeah. And
and
this is
the
land,
certification AOLCP,
yeah,
accredited organic land care professional.
that's exactly right. And so they go through the training, and then they have that certification, and they really understand the principles of organic landscaping, and they work from the soil up. They make sure the soil is healthy. That's the first rule. And then you work up from there, and you just have less fungus, less mold, less weed pressure if the soil is healthy. And that makes the plants healthy, and you just have less work to do, and the whole landscape thrives. So it's actually not that difficult. The principles are actually simple.
Mhm.
And, the guys in our city were like, wow, it wasn't that bad to change over. When we first started, they were so panicked. They were like, oh my gosh, who is this Kathleen, and what's she bringing in? And what is this? We've been trained and we're the professionals, and what does she know? And, now they're all, oh yeah, we do organic. They're all proud. It's wonderful. It's wonderful to
Mhm.
see that. But
Right.
change can be hard, change can be scary, but I can assure you, I can assure everyone that organic landscaping methods are possible in any city, in any situation.
Mhm.
And I would say too that almost the worse the problems are, say there's a park with like the worst weeds and the scrubbiest landscape and like the worst, I don't know, insects, grubs, whatever. All that gets better when you heal the soil.
Mm.
Those parks are generally the most amazing, because when we come into cities, they like to give us the crappiest parks because they don't want, they
Yeah.
don't want it to succeed, and they're like, it's not going to work anyway. Let's give them the hardest park. And then
Mhm.
when we flip them and they look beautiful, they're like, oh my gosh,
Mm.
it's amazing. I always say, give me your hardest park. I don't care.
Mm. Awesome.
So yeah, so what I would like to see is more communities jumping on board, more groups of people going to their city council, going to their school boards, going to whoever, and asking them, please learn organic methods and employ these. Because if you want, we can get into the pesticides a little bit. The most common one, of course, is Roundup, and I'll share my screen with you. There's a list on the Beyond Pesticides website. Let's see. And here it is, the health effects of 30 commonly used pesticides. And if you look at all the things that these products do, you really don't want these products around your babies or your pets or yourself
Mm.
or the guys who work in the department. And the interesting thing is that the more science there is on this, the more alarming the situation is, because turns out these products can start causing serious damage, neurological issues, reproductive issues, developmental issues, all kinds of problems in parts per trillion, like the tiniest exposure. And these things get into your body through the bottoms of your feet, through your skin. Like if your park's not organic, I'm sorry to say, I do not recommend you run around barefoot on those fields. The fertilizers they're using, the chemicals they're using to control weeds, glyphosate is a lot of times now with increased awareness, people will say, oh, we dropped glyphosate. And then what's being recommended by the chemical dealers is glufosinate, which is like a cousin of glyphosate. It's still not good for you. And those products are used like around the edges of parks, around tree planters, because those products kill every single weed they touch. And other products like 2,4-D, which is commonly sold in a product called Speed Zone, but it could be in other products. That will be sprayed directly on the grass because that's called a selective herbicide, and that will kill what's called the broadleaf weeds, and it will leave the blades of grass, which are skinny leaves. So it kills the broadleaf, and it's sprayed all over the top of the lawn. It's just soaked. And not
Yeah.
only that, oftentimes they'll mix it with other products at the same time. You're not even getting just that product alone. And historically, when these products have been tested, they've been tested in an isolated manner,
Right.
like one at a time, tested, like, see, it's safe.
Right.
But okay, first they're not, and second, we're discovering that they're not because in parts per, tiny particles, they are causing significant damage in the development of our children and the health of our families. Like, it's time to just stop using them. But worse, when they combine these products together, nobody's testing the combination effect.
Right.
So I always think of like the Brady Bunch when I'm going to date myself, but when they had the volcano experiment, remember? And that you just, or if you've done it recently, you just add a product and everything blows up, right? It's a very quiet thing. And then you add another one, it blows up. That's what happens with these chemical products. When you mix them, there are more dangerous reactions, and those are never tested or monitored. But there is a study coming up that I just learned about that's kind of encouraging, that's going to try and measure that. But even these products used in isolation, you don't want in your family.
Right.
Not to mention mixed together. And then fertilizers that are typically used, they contain heavy metals, they contain all kinds of toxins.
Let me just mention that 2,4-D is very similar to Agent Orange, which was done and sprayed in Vietnam. And I'm sure the chemical company has an answer to that, but I think it's important to note that these are not altogether different things. The 2,4-D and the, dioxin Agent Orange in Vietnam. So
Well,
anyway.
2,4-D is actually half of the Vietnam formulation.
Okay.
They sprayed it on the jungles to kill the foliage.
Right.
But turns out that 2,4-D is super toxic too.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, look at these products. You can't even pronounce them. And these
Triclopyr, I've heard that one before.
yeah. And if you look, you can look across and on see what it does. It has reproductive effects, liver and kidney damage,
Endocrine disruption.
effects. Yeah, I mean, these are very serious things. Roundup is really glyphosate is particularly hideous for just getting into your body and wreaking havoc. But look at 2,4-D, it hits all these: cancer, endocrine disruption, reproductive effects, neurotoxicity, kidney and liver damage, sensitizer, irritant, and birth defects. And this is so commonly used. I have to tell you, I don't think I've ever come to a town that didn't use it, a school or a park. Like, it's that common. It's just like Roundup. It's just the norm. It's just the normal product. And granted, it's convenient. You spray the lawn and in the end, you just have grass and you get rid of all the weeds that are growing amongst the grass. And I understand that that's difficult, but even so, is it worth it? Is it worth having kids play soccer and roll around on that after you've sprayed? What's more important, the weeds or your kids' health?
Right.
So if it's a little more work to figure that out, there are safer products. There's a product called Fiesta and so on. There are products that are, I guess, copper based and so on, and they're safer than 2,4-D. So it might not work quite as well, but it's not going to kill everyone. I mean, I hate to put it that way, but we need to start thinking about these commonly used products and just think of better options so that we're not endangering our families
Right.
just to make the lawn look good. I mean, is it worth the dandelion control to have a kid down the street develop cancer in a few years? I mean, not to me. I'd rather see dandelions myself, but
Exactly.
but there are products like the one I'm representing, Contact Organics, that will kill them instantly. And you don't have to use those products. And there are other organic products. I'm not just promoting my own. There's a product called Suppress, which is the one they use in my city of Irvine, and that controls the weeds. And yeah, you have to spray it more frequently. But in our city, they decided to do it. They're paying a little more and they have more man hours, but they've decided it's important to set that money aside and pull it from some other department so that the citizens are safer. So I just wanted to show you this. You can
Sure.
find this on the Beyond Pesticides website. We could post a link later, I guess, beyond this, underneath this interview. But if you just go to Beyond Pesticides website, there's all kinds of information on all kinds of pesticides. It's a fantastic resource, and they're an amazing organization. And as I said, they sponsor cities changing to organic practices as much as they can. They're working with New York City, they're working with Philadelphia. They just have so much experience. They've worked with large and small cities, and they're an amazing team, Beyond Pesticides. So here's a study that just came into my inbox, evaluating cumulative organophosphorus pesticide body burden of children, a national case study. This is very interesting because this has not been done. People just don't do this. All the products are tested one at a time, but children's actual exposure, our actual exposure, is to a multitude of products, whatever the accumulation is that's on the field or on the sides of the field or drifts in from the hills or whatever it is. So it's very interesting. This study is going to take place. I'm encouraged by it. It's not that we really need it. I mean, we need it in terms of pinpointing what's going on out there. And so I'm excited from that point of view. But from all the science that's already been done, we already know that it's really time to change what we're doing in all of our parks and all of our cities. There's so much study, so many studies come into my inbox with developmental issues with kids and everything that's being linked to these products. And I would encourage everyone to go to Non-Toxic Communities, form a group, and we have a lot of information there about how you can approach your city and, always be very calm and very reasonable. But I have found that the best way to go in is to go in and also provide a solution so that your town can do this correctly and be successful, and you won't drive your guys in the landscaping department crazy because they are a little scared. This is daunting. It's daunting for them to learn a whole new way. But one thing I will tell you is that the results are absolutely amazing. Something I didn't put up yet, I can look it up now. Let's look up Osborne Organics just for the fun of it. And oh shoot, can't find the server. I guess if I didn't put it up ahead of time. Let's see. Oh, there it is. Okay. So here we go. About method. Let's see. He's got some photographs here. Look at these organic.
Right.
This is what Chip does all the time. That's what he does. This is a professional baseball field, by the way. There's someone's property. I think that's a horse farm. Look what Chip does. And so there's this myth that's Pepperdine University in Malibu. He manages Pepperdine. Does that field look problematic to you? I mean,
Right. Looks great.
Yeah. So many people say, oh, organic systems don't work. I'll tell you what, they work better. So I'll stop screen sharing now, but yeah, I mean, really, you're going to improve things. Like we have to get through this myth that organic systems can't work or that they're so expensive and they're just too costly. We can't consider it. We have to keep using these toxic products. It just is not true. It's not true.
Right. So how can people go to the next step with this?
The next step, I would recommend my website, liveclean.com, livkleen, is just a landing page right now. I have to finish putting up my text and my guts on it, which I'm working on. But for now, if someone wants to go right now somewhere, they could go to
.org.
.com,
.com,
nontoxiccommunities.com. And you can get the tools that you need. You can get sample letters for your officials or tips on forming a group. In Irvine, what we did was we had a petition. I think it was change.org. And we ran a petition and for very little money, we pushed it out on Facebook. And we had more and more residents sign on, like it's a kind petition. It's not attacking. It's just, we would be interested in having our city council consider an organic program for the landscape maintenance in our town or our school. And you can form a petition and then circulate it, and people will sign on. If you don't already have a group, then you start to form a group. And in Irvine, what we did was we formed a group, and then everyone who came to the table, we all had different skills. Like I had this background, working with farmers and scientists, and I knew what was what. And so I worked a lot with the research, and then I knew a lot about Beyond Pesticides. So I brought Beyond Pesticides in and I worked on our grant. So that was sort of my department. And one other gal had an experience with corporate marketing and she worked on marketing. And the other gal had, more experience with organizing and things like that. And then a father who came and joined our group had experience with city planning and working with city councils. So he knew how to set up appointments and so on, and how to behave and basically how to approach city officials. So we organized ourselves that way. And then one of the gals also worked on press. And then we also had a mother who joined our group who had a child who was fighting cancer. So she knew all the other parents in the community with kids with cancer. And she knew that there was a cancer cluster in our town. And so a lot of those families and kids came to the meeting. And, if you could get a lot of people to come forward or sign on or express support, that really helps city council members to understand, hey, this is a worthwhile thing. I mean, I almost think now that the lawsuits have come out with glyphosate exposing all the danger, and people understand now that a product that everyone thought was safe because it was for sale at Home Depot isn't really that safe. Imagine that times the 100 other products they're using, because that's the case.
Right.
So, I hope that people will form groups in their own community and go forward in a very professional and calm manner and approach your city council and ask for change, and then approach Beyond Pesticides for support and the proper methods. Approach NOFA, approach Beyond Pesticides. And, if you're lucky, you could approach, natural grocers. If you have a natural grocers organic market in your town, approach them, because they are supporting these organic training programs on what's called pilot sites. So you ask your city for a sample, 1 or 2 sites for a park, so your staff can get training in your town. And then you have the pilot sites, and then those will work out. And once they work out, hopefully the whole city flips. And that's how it works. So that's the ask. You're going to ask for pilot sites, either in your school district or in your town. They're 2 different departments usually. And just move forward and ask for that. But make sure you get the proper training lined up. You can't just go in and say, I want you to stop using all these products, because that doesn't give them a solution to be successful. So you really have to go the extra step. So maybe there's a local organic grocery store in your community. Maybe if you don't have a natural grocers, maybe there's some other chain that will support you and give you a little grant, maybe help you out, get a hold of their headquarters and see if they'll support your community. It is not as hard as people think to bring about change. It's really not. And it's so positive, I can't tell you. So if we could get more towns and cities on board, that's the goal.
It sounds great. Kathleen, thanks so much for joining us. Stay on the Zoom call, but I'm going to end the live stream. Thank you, everybody, for joining us, and get online and look for nontoxiccommunities.com.
Or contact organics.
Contact Organics. Okay. Thank you.